Hey everyone, it's Jolt here. We just concluded the first ever monthly office hours for the new Sketch Your Mind community. In the first half hour, I gave an overview of all the new features that I created over the past 4 months in ExcaliDraw. And then this was followed by another hour of Q&A about PKM, about the new features, and about a broad set of subjects. I thought that the overview would be interesting to everyone. If you want to join the community, the discussion, it's super fun. It's an amazing community. Check out the links in the video description. If not, then just enjoy this walkthrough of the new features. Okay, so lots of things have changed or improved over the past couple of months. And I'm going to start with the improved features. And some of these features, I'm not sure you're actively using the LaTeX editor, but if you click here to embed a math formula, a LaTeX formula, you will get this message that now the LaTeX suite is supported. So if you install the LaTeX suite, then if I come in here and add a formula, I can start to type, I don't know, E equals M C square, like that. And you can see that immediately there's a preview of your formula. So, and also there's an intelligent, I don't do LaTeX formulas, but those who do, you can see that this was automatically changed to the formula itself. So I can type like this. Anyway, if you're into this, then LaTeX suite is now supported and you have this editor. I think a huge improvement is the inline link suggester that came with, actually that was a fallout from Mind Map Builder. And I don't know why I didn't build this much earlier. So if I start to type, I can actually insert a link, which is a huge improvement. And actually it's even better than this. So one, I think, super fantastic feature is if I start to add a link, and for example, I'm going to select the starter kit logo. So here you can see this is the Sketch Your Mind starter kit. If I type # caret and type frame equals, then it will bring up the frames within that image, and I can choose to insert the light logo. And then here's the light logo for it, just so you understand what this is about. So if I open the logo starter kit, then you will see here that I have two marker frames. This one is with light logo and this one is with dark logo. But I think this is super convenient that I can just simply, if I create a bigger illustration and I have my frames on it, then with the inline suggester, I can quickly add these. And I find this very helpful. In a number of cases, I have multiple versions of the same thing. Now I don't need to keep them separate. I can just add my marker frames and pull in whatever I need at the time I need it. Open all drawings in view mode. This was the result of chatting with one of the community members and looking at the use cases. Essentially, what this does is now ExcaliDraw view, toggle view mode for all ExcaliDraw drawings until Obsidian restarts. So what this does is it switches this drawing to view mode, but if I click on a link here and I open that drawing, that's also going to open in view mode. When is this good? This is great when you're doing a presentation in ExcaliDraw and you're navigating from drawing to drawing. You're not distracted with the menus, with everything. So you can have multiple drawings. You can travel between the drawings clicking on images, and you don't have the risk of accidentally changing the drawing, and B, you don't have the distractions with everything on the screen. It's just the view mode. I think this is such a useful presentation feature. And then, of course, I can toggle this off, and then I'm back to normal and the menu is back. So, and this doesn't change the image itself, of course. All it does is until I restart Obsidian or turn this off within the session, I'm in view mode. There's a plugin called New Node, like this, and I'm going to Sheet plus create Excel file. So this is now a table here that was created. This is pretty much a spreadsheet. So A, B, C, and I'm just now going to do this super dumb table, but it's a pretty functional table here. I'm going to rename this now to my table, just so I can remember it. And now if I come here and I select insert any file and I insert my table, then I can insert this as an embeddable and it will load sheets, and it's actually going to follow my theme. So now you can, if you install the Sheets plugin, then it is integrated with ExcaliDraw such that you can actually embed it in your drawing. It will follow the theme, not immediately, so it's not 100% full safe. So if I change the theme like this, it's not going to change. But if I switch back and forth, then it should actually. So when I open it, so I didn't go as far as to, actually that would require more conversation with the Sheets developer. But for me, I said good enough is good enough. So for the time being, I'm super happy I can have a table in my scene. And so that's the new Sheets integration. Let me turn this back to light mode. Mermaid, you might have noticed, so if you come here, there's the text to diagram feature. And what's cool about text to diagram is you can now create a diagram by chatting. So create a flow chart of buying a car. And so then you will get a flow chart. And of course, so this is now a silly example, but you can have a proper chat here, and there you go. And then you can continue the chat. So, and that's a new feature in terms of Mermaid that make this colorful, for example. So now the Mermaid color styling is also supported by ExcaliDraw. So once the colors are added, we should see, hopefully, yes, a colorful Mermaid. And of course, I mean, if you want to edit this, then you can come over here and you can start to edit it. And so this just gives you, if you have a mermaid, even if it's a colored mermaid, you can bring it in. And there are different type of charts. So I could also say, convert this to a sequence diagram, and then I'm going to get a different type of diagram. The list of diagrams was expanded. So I think overall, Mermaid is a pretty powerful component. So this now becomes a buyer, car dealership, financing institution, and you see this sequence diagram. I think these are just nice additional features here. Pasting diagrams, that's a cool feature that was and still is more or less an Easter egg in ExcaliDraw. So the way it works is if I just open, so here I have this table. This is a very simple table. You can see this here, couple of columns. So this is a comma separated file. If I now copy this on the clipboard, if I now paste this, then I get these options. I can choose from different type of diagrams, and now it actually supports multiple data points. And so for example, I can insert this triangle diagram here, but you saw the different options. It's nice if you need a simple diagram for an illustration. This is a great starting point. And of course, this is a drawing, so then I can modify it. I can, of course, color it if I want to in whatever way, etc. So I have all of the options that come with ExcaliDraw. I think this is a neat feature here. ExcaliAI went through some significant updates, and I have a separate video on it, so I won't go into significant details. I do want to show you, however, that if I come here to AI settings, now you can configure your different providers and you can include models. There is a change that now you have an AI usage within the current session. So in this case, I can see that I sent 898 tokens and received 700 tokens in response in the current session. And it's going to track your different models like this. I think that's pretty cool. Also, some of the image editing features are super cool. I've been using this just to show you one example. So 05 future, and I need the thumbnail. So I just want to show you that the way I created the thumbnail for this video was I created this drawing. I had this image here, which was not super good. I had this rough image, and then I used ExcaliAI and I asked it just to improve on my thumbnail. And it remained the same thumbnail essentially. So it is based on what I did, but it was simply with ExcaliAI, a single short prompt, and I got this improved image and everything else. So I'm pretty happy. Or just to show you another thumbnail. In this case, this was my, which one was it? This was my original input. So this is what I put together as the thumbnail. And this is the one I published. Again, it looks a bit ugly because it's in dark mode, but if I switch it like this, then you can see. You see, it remained the same, but there's a change. This one was by Gemini. No, actually, this one was by GPT-5, I think. This is what Gemini did. But mind you, in this case, I didn't tell it to maintain the handwritten style or hand sketch style. But essentially, ExcaliAI has and is becoming something that is actually practical and useful. For me, this is a huge help. I can do my creative work here and I can spice it up a little, and then I have my thumbnail. I'm super happy with this. There are some nice improvement with images. I think one of the huge improvements is this do not invert option. So the way it works is if I have this image here, I'm going to toggle this to dark mode, then this image was inverted. But there are situations, and maybe let's bring in here an icon, maybe this one right here. So this is the icon I brought in here. It's slightly big. But yeah, so this doesn't really look good inverted, and also shouldn't be inverted. So now you can selectively right click an image and you can avoid inverting it in dark mode. And so now this is not inverted. And if you're not happy with the eyelashes being black, etc., of course, you have the additional thing, which is by the way another new feature, that Shade Master, the Shade Master script now opens in the side panel. So that's an update. And of course, here I can just simply maybe change this color to a gray. And then I have this inserted, not inverted, and I can just change the single color. This only works with SVGs, but I think overall this is a very useful feature because not every icon looks nice when it's inverted. And so this just helps with that. Back to light mode. Yeah, the other thing I did is let's just create an empty placeholder image here. So I'm just creating a new drawing. Yeah, so this is a blank new drawing. And you know, when you embed a blank drawing, so I'm going to blank sample. So this is just my blank sample here. So when I embed a blank drawing, then in the past, nothing was embedded. So it was just a big nothing, which is not very helpful either in ExcaliDraw or in Markdown. But now if I insert the blank sample, then you get a placeholder in place, which is just helpful because you know it's there. Also, if I embed it in the scene itself, it's going to work the same way. So if I come here and embed this, then it's the placeholder and it has a meaningful size. You know it's there and you can fill it, especially when you have automated templates that create drawings. This can be an issue that it creates an empty drawing and then it's a miniature on your screen. So typically what happened in the past was you got this infinitely small dot that was the inserted image and then you had to resize it. So I think I'm pretty happy with this image feature. And then I already showed you Shade Master moved to the side panel. So that's done. The other is the Deconstruct selected elements script. So that's the pizza slicer. You can now select the folder separately from the file name. And indeed, the folder is a suggester. So you can actually browse the folder where you want to place your deconstructed image. I think super helpful because often I'm a folders guy. So I like my folders. I use them as my primary namespace for my files. But anyway, so the Deconstruct script now supports that. So those are the new features. In terms of big features, there are some UI improvements here. So there's a toggle full screen button, which essentially removes the menus, etc. This is especially helpful on mobile devices when you want to get rid of the Obsidian toolbar at the bottom, etc. And it's just easily accessible here. There's a new preference menu, which is actually pretty nice. So here in the hamburger menu, you find this preferences button. And that you can set a whole bunch of preferences for your scene here. Many of these were available on the context menu, but this not. And there's the select feature, should it be wrap or overlap? So let me show you what that means. So currently it's in wrap, which means that if I select, items are only selected when the select box completely wraps over them, right? So you can see that. If I change this as my default to overlap, then the select tool becomes like the lasso tool. Whatever I touch with the select box gets selected. Now, there you go. Now, of course, I have a different preference. You can set this, that's great. But just to let you know, so if you have the wrap feature, and if you start to drag and you hold down the Alt or Option key, then your select tool anyway automatically changes to the lasso select. So that feature has been there already for a year or so. But now with the select tool that you can choose the way it selects, I think it's just a good reminder that if you press Alt or Option when you select, then you can actually do the lasso select. On a mobile device, I think lasso select is the default, and also it's available here from the more tools menu, but the easiest is the Alt Option key. New context menu options, I think those are pretty cool. So here you have arrow binding and snap to midpoints as two arrow features that are now available. So what does this mean? If I have these two boxes here, and now it's snap to midpoint, and you can see if I hover this, you see the midpoint. And if I draw an arrow, it's going to snap to the midpoint like that. But if I disable snap to midpoints, not a big surprise, then you no longer have the snap to midpoint. And this happened already last year, but it's super cool that now you can attach an arrow to any point on your object And so if you move it around, it stays attached. This is extremely helpful when you want to annotate an image. So imagine you have a picture and you have these arrows saying that this is the eye and that's the whatever, and then it will, okay, so I didn't attach this here. Then it will continue to point to that element as you move the items around. I think it's when you're annotating images, this is very helpful. New arrow focus indicators, that's actually, you saw it in action here, that as I bring my arrow in, oh, there you go, that's the focus indicator. Can you see that dashed line there? I can, so the arrow touches the side of the, so it's, because an arrow can bind to the boundary or can bind to the internals. If the arrow binds to the boundary, then this line here, the focus indicator, shows you where the binding point is that's not visible. So if you want to bind something to the center, because if I bind it here, then as I move it around, it will try to continue to bind to that point. But if I bind this to the center, then as I move it, it will move such that it stays around the center. So that's a very helpful small feature. And yeah, there are some text editing improvements, which I'm super happy with, because this was a bit of a tedious thing. So you know that if you have a text element, you can resize it like this, and then text starts to wrap. The new thing is this line there. Hopefully you can see that. If that's there, it means that this is now in wrapping mode. If I click on this, then it exits that wrapping mode. Until now, you had to click here and you had to select enable text auto resizing. I mean, it was doable, but frankly, I think this is such a good feature. It's a single click and it's good. The other feature is if I click on a text element to edit, it will immediately place my cursor to the point where I clicked, so it's just quicker. So if I double click, then I select everything, but if I click, if my text element is selected and I click anywhere, then that's going to be immediately highlighted. So if you want to edit text quickly, that could be a useful feature. And then just as last, there are some things here that are interesting in terms of fixes. So the one that I'm happiest with is the copy paste of a nested image fragment. So what does it mean? You saw that this is actually a frame reference to logo light, right? So this link is a frame reference. Until now, if I copied this to the clipboard and then I went over to a markdown document and pasted it, it lost the frame reference. That's no longer the case. Now it carries the frame reference. So if I copy this, then from my drawing, I copy the image and it's going to paste a proper embed in the drawing with the frame reference, which I think is just handy if you want to pick out stuff from your drawing that's good. So that was something that bothered me. Yeah, I think these issues, yeah, they have been fixed. So the hover preview was a mess. The hover preview didn't always work. Now it does. Let's add a link here. I'm just going to add this thumbnail here. So this is a link, and now if I hover preview, then the preview comes up. And I mean, this didn't work, so it's a great thing that it now works. And then with the recent Obsidian community site and with all sorts of noise around this, I went through and did a whole bunch of improvements. There was also a separate security penetration test blog that highlighted some vulnerabilities around ExcaliDraw. I fixed those as well. Now, in terms of the vulnerabilities, I think just one point of context here. that I think going forward as Obsidian users, we all need to pay much more attention to this. So the biggest vulnerability that you have is if you're somehow tricked into downloading an Obsidian Vault and opening it on your machine. And that's actually regardless of ExcaliDraw. The issue is that now Obsidian is big enough that it attracts the attention of bad people. That's the real issue. But the issue is Obsidian plugins have, via the entire environment, full access to your machine, full, without limitation. So if you download a vault from the internet that you're not trusting, and when you open the vault, you click to trust the author and enable plugins, then you can be in trouble because those plugins can do anything on your machine. That's completely regardless of ExcaliDraw. And by the way, it can be malicious to the extent that you actually see the name of the plugin that you're familiar with. So you look through the plugins before you enable it and you say, oh, I see it's data view and it's templater and it's ExcaliDraw. And the issue can be then two things. One, people can actually call it ExcaliDraw and replace it with their own script. Nothing stops them from it. So, or with data view. So it can have the name, because in Obsidian you can install plugins not only from the community store. So if you create a folder with the name of the plugin and you place in the files, and there are actually plugins that you can only access with Brat. And by the way, the beta testing when you download a plugin is this situation. So you can have any file in there, but unfortunately, even if they keep the original login, with some of the automation features, and in particular with the plugins I mentioned, all of them can be a liability: templater, data view, ExcaliDraw, task management, etc. Every one of these has automations that can be used in a malicious way. So anyway, whatever was reported for ExcaliDraw, I fixed. I think the underlying issue is what I've just explained. And my fear is it will be fixed in a way that Obsidian gets locked down, which will be a huge loss. I think in terms of productivity and feature set. And I know the Obsidian team is working very heavily to figure out the best ways to protect this. I did what I could on my side to comply and to address the issues, so that's coming. So that was definitely not 15 minutes, but I told you it was since the beginning of February. So those are the updates. And now I think let's turn over to Q&A and the discussion. I'm open for your questions, either regarding any of what I've just shared or anything else. And I'm stopping the recording for YouTube. And yeah, let's jump into the conversation.